if you want to be president of the United States, shouldn't you have to live up to the standard that is there for your cabinet? If your cabinet nominee is put forth, he or she must put forth their tax returns.
Nancy Pelosi Nancy Pelosi has given up on this call for Mitt Romney to release his tax records, calling the issue a distraction. Suddenly it's a distraction. If you're wondering why Nancy Pelosi now says that asking Mitt Romney to release his tax records is a, quote, distraction, it's because Nancy Pelosi was asked for her tax records. In fact, of the 535 members of the House, only 17 of them chose to supply their tax records. So this, like so many of the other distractions that the Obama campaign has thrown out there, this one has gone nowhere. It's failing to stick. By the way, I don't see why you should, if you want to run for president, you should release your tax records. I assume Mitt Romney has filed his tax returns so that, and he has paid his taxes, unlike, for example, the United States Treasury Secretary, Timothy Geithner. So unlike little Timmy Geithner, TurboTax Timmy, who couldn't understand, who claimed that he couldn't understand the yes-no prompts of TurboTax, and that's why he hadn't paid the taxes. TurboTax Timmy didn't pay the taxes. Mitt Romney, one assumes, has actually paid his taxes, and if the IRS had any problem with him, the IRS would be after him. I don't see why you should. Why should you have to release your tax records when you run for president, or when you run for Speaker of the House, or when you run for dog catcher, or when you run for anything? There's a great transparency. I'm a great believer in transparency on certain things, Mr. Snerdley, and I think it's true that we don't have this. We know nothing about this guy who's president. We know he's got a composite girlfriend, and we know that his stepfather was it his stepfather in Indonesia that the book says died, his step-grandfather that, according to Obama's autobiography, died heroically in the Indonesian battle to free their land of Dutch colonialism. And in fact, it turns out that instead, this Obama stepfather or step-grandfather died when he fell off a chair attempting to change the drapes. So I'm in favor of a certain amount of transparency, that if a guy has concocted a biography that is one bit of hooey to the next, then I think we ought to, the press ought to take an interest in that. I think it's actually interesting whether he's sold us this relative who was a heroic freedom fighter for independence from the Dutch for Indonesia, and in fact it turns out he died falling off a chair trying to change the drapes. I think that's worth knowing about. But do I think we ought to be releasing tax returns? So for people to know, what medical expenses a candidate claimed? I think this is horrible. I think there's a huge problem. For a start, we have to tell too much to the IRS. So there's information on our tax returns that is actually incompatible with free societies. And that's getting worse. The new laws coming into place on January the 1st, 2013 will mean that US citizens will have to declare more to the IRS than citizens of other Western nations do to their revenue collection agencies. So I think there's too much in there anyway, and I don't see why you should have to declare. I'm for generally speaking for privacy rights. How do you say it in this country? Privacy or privacy? I don't care. Whichever it is, I'm for both of them. I'm for privacy and privacy, and we need to get back to some of that.